think Senator Gillibrand is a crook?
No, and I do not think all politicians are crooks.
And why did you call her a crook?
I did not call her a crook. Now, Ms. Senator, you need to focus on this bill. Right, you're doing this again. You did it the last hearing.
A tweet that you said the crypto industry is buying Congress and the White House. This won't end well. Why do you think the crypto industry is buying Senator Gillibrand?
Look at the campaign contributions from this industry.
You think they've bought her?
I said, look at the campaign contributions.
You said they bought her. Do you think they bought her?
Senator, you need to focus on this bill.
What evidence do you have that she's a crook? You want to apologize to Senator Gillibrand?
I do not want you to have to apologize for passing legislation that destroys our economy.
For calling
you are distorting what I said, just like you did in the last hearing. You're wasting everybody's time, Senator.
You're a whack job.
Senator, you are wasting.
Well, I think we are
next level whack job.
I think we
are.
Is
this middle school, Senator?
I think you should apologize, Senator.
I think, Senator, you're wasting our time. This is not middle school.
Tonight, Senator John Kennedy walked into a hearing and said the quiet part out loud. Not inflation, not slogans, not spin. He started listing what Medicaid is allegedly paying for. Exorcisms, tribal prayers, in-home chefs, scooters, even gym memberships. And suddenly the entire hearing changed. Because once those words are spoken on camera, nobody in that room can pretend this is normal anymore. And the bigger question is the one millions of taxpayers are asking right now. If this is where the money is going, then who is protecting the people paying for it? In the next few minutes, you're going to watch Kennedy turn a routine exchange into one of the most uncomfortable moments in this debate. And by the end, you'll understand why this issue is hitting such a nerve across the country.
General, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Senator.
In America, unlike other countries, where they let you die in a ditch, in America, if you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. Isn't that right?
It is.
And one of the programs we do that through is Medicaid.
Correct.
Okay. And this money for Medicaid, it didn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets, didn't it?
Every dime of it.
And some of that money is stolen, isn't it?
Yes.
And the states, not all of them, but many of them, allow it to be stolen, don't they?
Yes.
Let's take Medicaid in California, for example. I don't mean to just pick on California. But because this happens in other states. We saw it happen in Minnesota, for example. But in California, for every dollar that the California state government puts up for Medicaid, for the Obamacare portion of Medicaid, the federal taxpayer puts up $9, don't they? And so, is that right?
That's correct, Senator.
And so as a result, California has allowed thousands and thousands of these social assistance and so-called health care providers pop up in California, haven't they?
Yes.
And some of those providers steal the money, don't they?
Yes, we know that to be true. Yes.
And the money never gets to the people they supposedly are trying to help. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And the other way that California and others abuse the fact that they're putting up $1 and the American taxpayers putting up $9. Did I mention it was $9?
I think some say it's even more, but yes,
yeah.
9 work.
They expand the services, don't they?
Yes.
Because some states, like California, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. It's not everybody in California state government, but it's a lot of them. They see this as free money, don't they?
They're not paying for it, yes.
Isn't it a fact that, for example, Medicaid in California will pay a provider to provide tribal prayers? I looked all this up.
I mean, I'll accept that. I didn't know that, but yes.
That California will actually pay a health care provider, I didn't know this was a medical expertise, to pay for exorcisms. Is that right?
I'll accept that, Senator, but that's.
They pay, the California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines, meal deliveries. They'll pay for housing. I don't know what housing has to do with health care. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that the Medicaid program using federal money, taxpayer money, will pay for an in-home chef?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if it's a family member, yes.
Yeah, they'll even pay for gymnasium fees through Medicaid in California. They'll pay for bicycles, scooters, gym memberships. Did you know that?
Yes, several states do, but California does for sure.
They'll even repay your student loans. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of the student loans repayment.
Yeah, they'll repay somebody's student loans to encourage them to become a health care provider. I mean, California, they're just setting all kind of records. These folks are they're wild people. California's got 12% of the population. In the last 10 years, they're responsible for half of these new so-called health providers to provide exorcisms and other things. Now, what the hell are we doing about it? Why has this gone on for so long?
Senator, listen, it's a great question. And what you just described are programs that are allowed under the program. You have a whole other issue in California where a lot of these folks are just stealing the money, not even running it through for exorcism.
They're thieves, aren't they?
They're thieves, correct.
And California just watches it happen, don't they? Not everybody in California. The government, doesn't it?
Well, that's the challenge in a lot of states, is that we don't have a state government, which you all have entrusted to run these programs and take care of the money that you all give them. There's state structures that absolutely do not do any compliance, and they don't do their job.
Because they don't have no incentive to. They're getting free money. Isn't that right?
Yes, I think so, yes.
We got to change this, General.
We're trying.
I call this a slush fund. You want to talk about slush fund? This is a tier 1 slush fund that's been going on for years and years and years. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars is stolen.
Yes, Senator. And that's why, look, this department stood up a whole new fraud division, and AUSAs around the country prosecute fraud every day. So it's not as if we didn't have the work out there, but it's so systematically taking money from the American taxpayer that we very much believe that it needs its own stand-up structure, and I think it's true for the reasons that you just said.
If you need an exorcism, you can go to California, can't you?
Thank you, Senator.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Secretary, I think you're one of President Trump's best appointments. And I'm very impressed with the team that you put together. And I hope you're all willing to serve a long, long, long time. I agree with my friend Senator Coons. I think we need to look ahead. But I would be remiss if I didn't say this. As I might have mentioned before, I used to have a beagle named Roger. Loved him to death. He passed after 15, got a lot of years with him. But Roger, like all the beagles, would run off. He was incorrigible. And sometimes he'd come back a roadkill. And he'd hide it under my back porch. And what I saw in the last 30 days at the Department of Energy under the past administration looked like something Roger kept under my back porch. $78 billion, not million, $1 billion, as best I can remember, was shoveled out the door. And y'all had to clean it up. I'm not saying they were all bad grants and loans, but I'm saying a bunch of them were. And I just couldn't let that go without saying it. Now, I thought I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that you see in our near future small modular nuclear reactors. Can you elaborate on that, or did I misunderstand you?
No, you are correct, Senator. Under one of President Trump's executive orders last year was to see if we could get small modular reactors, next generation reactor designs, critical, meaning running the full nuclear system by July 4 of this year, our nation's 250th birthday. And I sit here today, we still have 2.5 months for that date, but I believe we will have multiple small modular reactors critical, meaning running their full nuclear system before July 4 this year. I could not be more excited about that. This is a next generation of nuclear energy where when you can build things small, meaning build as much as possible inside factories, you can drive down costs, you can drive up efficiencies. I think we truly are going to launch a nuclear renaissance during this administration. I think it's going to have enormous benefits around our country. I couldn't be more excited about it. And I could go on for forever, so I'll stop.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Look, this is not a news flash. To some extent, our grid is a mess. We've made some strides in clean energy, wind, solar. We can't get them hooked up. You didn't father that child, but you got to raise it. What are we doing? What can Congress do to help?
I think there's challenges.
Do we need more transformers? What's the problem?
We need more transformers. We need more switchgear. We need more electrical equipment and electrical steel built in the United States, which is part of our supply chain efforts to build more of these equipments here. We need to apply artificial intelligence to these grid studies that you have to do when you put a new source on. They take years. That's crazy. But with artificial intelligence and I think some more common sense regulation, we're going to speed up these grid studies dramatically and prioritize of all the things that have their hand in the air to connect to the grid, which ones are going to be effective and reliable and improve the operation of the grid and help drive down the prices, and how can we get them approved and actual connection as quickly as possible.
My last question is about AI and quantum computing. Look, I'm very proud what American companies have done in artificial intelligence. I do think we're ahead of China, and what people don't like to talk about in China is AI is supposed to tell you the truth. In China, AI can tell you the truth, except they can't criticize the Chinese government. In the long run, that's going to bite them on the elbow. I support AI. I think it's going to make our lives better if it doesn't kill us first. I don't know what to believe about AI. A lot of the smart people talking about AI also are trying to sell an IPO. And I'm not saying they're not telling the truth, but I think they're trying to sell an IPO. I would strongly encourage you and your team. The American people are plenty smart, but they're busy earning a living. To try to explain to them in basic terms, and frankly to Congress, how AI can be applied to energy production to make it more affordable and more efficient. Most Americans understand artificial intelligence, at least the general concept. They just don't know what the hell to do with it. And you don't need to comment on that, but you and the big brain sitting behind you, if you could do that for the American people, just centered on energy, and frankly do that for the members of Congress, you all deserve a pay raise.
Great advice, Senator. That's two takeaways I have from today that we will indeed carry out and we will deliver on at the department.
Okay. I know cost of living is a problem in America today. We all know that, Mr. President. I like to say when moms and dads go to sleep at night and can't, one of the things they're worried about is cost of living. I get that. What could we do to help? Well, obviously one thing we could do would be to lower taxes. We've got to be careful how we do that because we don't want to increase the deficit. We don't want to just borrow money to do that. Another thing we could do to help would be to lower interest rates. If we lowered interest rates, people would pay less interest on their credit cards, on their car loans, on their house notes. Well, what could we do, Mr. President, and you know this, to spend less so we could cut taxes and also lower interest rates? One of the things we could do is stop fraud. One of the things we can do is stop the outrageous fraud in our Medicaid program. Now, look, I want to be very clear here. I'm proud of Medicaid. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that in our country, if you're too poor to be sick, we will pay for your doctor. That's not true in every country, as you know, Mr. President. Some countries, they'll just let you die in a ditch. We don't do that in America. We will pay for your medical care. But that's outrageously expensive. It's okay, money well spent, but it's very, very expensive. And one of the ways we pay for people's care, particularly for low-income Americans, but also now even more so for middle-class Americans since Obamacare passed, is through Medicaid. We spend almost $1 trillion on Medicaid every year. And once again, I'm not speaking against the concept of Medicaid. We don't want people to die in America. It's one of the things that separates us from other people. But we spend almost $1 trillion a year, and the federal government, some people don't know this, pays for 67% of all Medicaid spending. Some people refer to Medicaid as a federal state program, and it is. The state puts up some of the money, but the federal government puts up most of the money. We pay for about 67% of all the spending in Medicaid. And Medicaid keeps going up. I mean, I've seen studies that show it's going up anywhere consistently between 6 and 8% every single year. And when you're spending $1 trillion and it goes up 6 to 8%, you're talking about real money. What we also know is that there's an enormous amount of fraud in Medicaid. I mean, we know that. There are a lot of studies out there, and not everyone can agree on how much, but I have seen studies from reputable think tanks that show that Medicaid fraud, stealing in the Medicaid program, runs between $1.1 and $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period. Can you imagine what we could do to lower interest rates or to reduce taxes if we could save $1.2 trillion on our budget? Now, how does this happen? Well, first of all, why don't the states do a better job of controlling the fraud? And I say, why am I blaming the states? Well, because it's a federal state program, and the feds put up 67% of the money, but the states administer that program. And some states do a pretty good job. Some states do a very good job. Some states are terrible at it. I don't know exactly why that is, but every state, I want to make this clear, has fraud. I saw an audit done by our Inspector General in Louisiana a few years ago, and he talked about the incidence of fraud in the Medicaid program in Louisiana, the people who were getting Medicaid who didn't qualify. And I said, can you send me a list of all the people you found in the Medicaid program who didn't qualify, who were making too much money? I don't want names. I just want the amounts of money that they were making and how long they'd been on Medicaid. And he sent me the list, and if I stacked it up here, I could stand on it and paint the ceiling. I mean, we had people making $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year getting Medicaid. Now, that was the state's fault for not checking. Some people say the states don't have any incentive. That's a cynical view. I prefer not to believe that's true. But they see Medicaid as free money, since the federal government is picking up most of the tab. I prefer not to think that's true, but it's probably true to some extent. The point is that if our states would do a better job administering the Medicaid program, and stopping the stealing, we could save $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years to help people reach the point where they don't have to sell blood plasma to go to the grocery store. You probably think I'm going to talk about Minnesota, and I'm not. We all know what happened in the Medicaid program in Minnesota. The state of Minnesota basically declared that Medicaid was an open bar. Just come on down, and if you want Medicaid and you want the Medicaid money and you want to steal some, you're welcome to it. I hate to say that, but that's what happened. And I hope every single person who's involved in that stealing up there goes to jail. Every single one. But what I wanted to talk about was, and again, every state has this problem, but some have it worse than others. And one of the ones besides Minnesota that seems to have a problem controlling stealing in the Medicaid program is California. Now, California spends an enormous amount of money on Medicaid. They spend about $220 billion a year. The federal government, federal taxpayer puts up $140 billion of that. So the federal taxpayer, the taxpayers who pay money to the federal government put up most of the money. Not all of it, but most of the money. How much does the federal government put up vis-a-vis the state government? Well, in the Obamacare portion of Medicaid, the federal government puts up $9. So for every $1 that the state government puts up for the Medicaid program, the federal government puts up $9. Wow. And some of the public officials in California have started to look at this as free money, just free money. And they don't try to fight the fraud. Now, how do you stop the fraud? One thing a state can do is investigate people who claim they're health care providers. We saw this as a problem in Minnesota. If you claim to be a home health provider, you're supposed to have a minimum level of qualification. If you claim to offer to provide after-school services, you're supposed to have a certain level of qualification. I don't think the state government in California even checks. We've got every fly-by-night artist in America, it seems, going to California to become a health care provider to get some of the money. And a lot of the times when they get that money, the money never makes it to the patient. They steal it. California, for example, has 12% of the population. In the last decade, they have been responsible for 50% of all of the new health care providers formed in America. Most of them are social assistance and so-called health care establishments. And there's an enormous amount of fraud there. We saw that once again in Minnesota, which has been publicized more, where people say, I'm now a health care provider. Give me the money, and so I can help people. And you give this fly-by-night health care provider money, and they never help people. So that's one way. The other way that you can control the spending in Medicaid is to be careful about the services you offer. You want to spend the Medicaid money on people who need it. You want to spend the Medicaid money on people who need it because they're sick. That's why we passed Medicaid. But states, once again, administer their own Medicaid programs, and for the most part, they get to decide what services their Medicaid program pays for. Now, supposedly the federal government has to sign off on it. And clearly we've got to do a better job there, and I'll save that topic for another day. But what got my attention about California, despite the fact that they have thousands and thousands of these fly-by-night so-called health care providers who the state government in California happily gives money to, and sometimes some of that money gets to a patient, but most of the time it gets into their pocket. What got my attention was the services that California state government will pay for in its Medicaid program with money from the federal government, which has been provided by the American people. Here's an example. And this came from an article, this isn't my research, this came from an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, a recent editorial, May 16, 2026. In California, under its state government's definition of Medicaid, the California Medicaid program will pay for tribal prayers. The California Medicaid program will pay for exorcisms. The California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines. The California Medicaid program will pay for meal deliveries. In some cases, the California Medicaid program will pay for in-home chefs. Thousands of businesses have popped up in California that literally cater to Medicaid patients. The Medicaid program in California will pay for sports club fees. The Medicaid program in California will pay for a gym membership. The Medicaid program in California will actually pay student loans. They do it under the guise of, well, we want to encourage people to become healthcare providers, and they can't do it if they have onerous financial burdens, so we'll pay for their health care. Now, once again, Medicaid is supposed to be for sick people. When you're spending other people's money, it's real easy to expand beyond that. The Medicaid program in California will pay for scooters. I get that. Sometimes that might be necessary. Bicycles, but it'll also pay for music lessons. The Medicaid program in California will also pay for art lessons. This money didn't just fall from heaven. We all thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets. And that's how we end up having $1.2 trillion over a 10-year period stolen from the Medicaid program. Money that was put up by the American people. It happens in every state. Some are worse than others. Minnesota's an example, but so is California. When you're taking American taxpayer dollars and spending them on an exorcism or a gym membership, something's wrong. And if we want to lower the cost of living in America, if we want to be able to find the money to give people a tax break, if we want to lower interest rates in America, one of the easiest, best ways to do it is to try to fight the fraud in our Medicaid program. It's as simple as that. $1.2 trillion over 10 years of fraud. This didn't just happen, Mr. President. as you know. This has been going on for a long, long time. And I want to give credit where credit is due. Dr. Oz, our new CMS director, the Department of Justice are both working to try to stop this fraud. But it has been there since God was a baby. And it's got to stop now. And that's what I wanted to, and this is, it's out in the open, and this is not something I'm accusing anybody of unfairly, okay? These are just the facts. So with that, Mr. President, I thank you for your attention. I thank Kaylin for her great work, and peace out.
What makes this moment hit so hard is not just the language, not just the shock value, and not even just the politics. It is the feeling that regular people are being asked to carry the weight of a system they no longer recognize. When families are dealing with rent, groceries, medical bills, and higher costs everywhere they turn, hearing that public money may be flowing into bizarre or highly questionable categories instantly changes the way viewers process the story. That is why this clip has real viral potential. It is not only about policy, it is about trust. And once trust is broken, every number suddenly feels bigger. Every hearing sounds more serious, and every answer from officials feels less convincing. Kennedy understands that. He does not always speak in technical language. He speaks in a way that converts policy into emotion. He takes a dense government subject and turns it into a kitchen table question. Why are ordinary people paying for things that sound impossible to justify? That is what keeps viewers watching. They are not just waiting for the next quote. They are waiting for the next confirmation that their frustration is real. And that is exactly how you should structure the end of your video. Don't end by repeating the headline. End by widening the meaning. Tell the audience this is bigger than one hearing and bigger than one senator. Tell them this is about whether government spending still has boundaries, whether anyone is checking the system before the money goes out, and whether the public is only learning about these stories after the damage is already done. Then slow the pacing slightly. Ask one direct question. If this was your money, would you call this healthcare or a broken system? That line keeps people mentally involved because it forces them to choose a side. After that, recap the 3 most memorable images from the video. The word exorcisms, the idea of in-home chefs, and the anger over taxpayer dollars. Those 3 images are sticky. Viewers remember visuals and phrases far more than detailed explanations. Finally, your last 30 to 40 seconds should feel like a payoff, not a goodbye. Say something like this. If this hearing surprised you, wait until you see what Kennedy says next about the money that was shoveled out the door. That creates a bridge into your next upload and gives the viewer a reason not to leave your channel. Then ask for only 1 action in the comments, not 3. The best comment CTA here is simple. Type enough if you think taxpayers deserve answers. 1-word comment prompts usually perform better because they are frictionless. Then point viewers to the next video with a clear match. If this video is about Medicaid abuse, your next recommended video should be the $78 billion clip or the border clip, because both stay inside the same broad theme of government accountability and outrage. This is how you turn one viral moment into a chain of watch time instead of a single spike.